Welcome, everyone. Before we begin, I'd like to mention that this is an original Christian inspirational story. It is not taken from a specific chapter or event in the Bible. However, it is inspired by biblical teachings about faith, hope, love, forgiveness, and God's guidance. Throughout this story, you will hear Bible verses that come directly from Scripture, while the characters and events are fictional and created to encourage believers in their walk with God. Now, let's begin the story. The sun had just begun to rise over the quiet hills. Golden light covered the fields, and a gentle breeze moved through the tall grass. Birds sang as if they were welcoming a new day. In a small village surrounded by green valleys, lived a young shepherd named Elias. Every morning before sunrise, he gathered his sheep and led them toward the peaceful hills where they could graze. Elias was known as a kind and honest man. He was not rich, and his life was simple, but he loved God with all his heart. Before leaving home each morning, he always bowed his head and prayed, "Lord, guide my steps today. Help me trust you in everything I do. Protect my family, my flock, and everyone I meet." His father had taught him something he never forgot. "My son," his father would say, "a shepherd does not only lead sheep. A true shepherd protects them, searches for them when they are lost, and never gives up on them. That is how God cares for his people." Those words stayed in Elias's heart. One afternoon, while sitting beneath an old olive tree, Elias opened his Bible and quietly read from Psalm 23. "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." He smiled and looked across the hills. "If God is my shepherd," he whispered, "then I never walk alone." Life seemed peaceful, but deep inside, Elias carried questions that no one knew. His mother had become seriously ill months earlier. The family had little money for medicine, and each day Elias wondered how they would survive. Some nights he looked toward heaven and asked, "Lord, I believe you love us, but why is this happening? Why does it feel like you are silent?" Even when he received no answer, he continued to pray. One evening, as the sun disappeared behind the mountains, an old traveler entered the village. His clothes were dusty from many days of walking, and he looked tired and hungry. Most people ignored him. Some closed their doors. Others walked away without saying a word. But Elias remembered the words of Jesus, "Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." Without hesitation, Elias invited the stranger into his humble home. He shared the little bread his family had, offered fresh water, and gave the traveler a warm place to rest. The old man looked at him with grateful eyes. "You have very little," he said softly, "yet you gave everything you could." Elias smiled. "My blessings come from God. If he has been kind to me, I should also be kind to others." The traveler nodded, but before sleeping, he quietly said something Elias would never forget. "Young shepherd, God often begins his greatest miracles through the smallest acts of kindness." Elias did not yet understand those words, but very soon, his faith would be tested in ways he had never imagined. As Part K visual prompt, water cooler illustration. The next morning, Elias woke before sunrise as usual. The village was quiet, and the air was cool. He knelt beside his bed and prayed, "Father in heaven, I do not know what this day will bring, but I know you are already there. Give me wisdom, courage, and a heart that trusts you." After gathering his flock, Elias led the sheep toward the green hills. The old traveler's words echoed in his mind. God often begins his greatest miracles through the smallest acts of kindness. What did he mean? Elias wondered. As the sheep grazed peacefully, dark clouds slowly covered the sky. A strong wind began to blow across the valley. Within minutes, the calm morning turned into a fierce storm. Rain poured heavily, and thunder shook the mountains. The frightened sheep scattered in every direction. "Elias!" shouted another shepherd from across the hill. "Save yourself. The storm is too dangerous." But Elias looked at his flock. Some sheep had already disappeared into the fog. He remembered what his father had always taught him. A shepherd never abandons his sheep. Holding his staff tightly, Elias ran into the storm. The rain soaked his clothes, and the wind pushed him backward, but he refused to stop. He called each sheep by name, searching through the rocks and bushes. After a long search, he found several frightened sheep trapped between large stones. Carefully, he freed them one by one. Just as he was about to return, he heard a faint cry. It was not a sheep. It sounded like a child. Elias followed the voice through the heavy rain until he found a little boy hiding beneath a broken tree. The child was cold, frightened, and unable to walk because his ankle had been injured. "Don't be afraid," Elias said gently. "I'm here now." He lifted the boy onto his shoulders and slowly made his way back through the storm, guiding the sheep with one hand and carrying the child with the other. It was one of the hardest journeys of his life. By the time they reached the village, the storm had begun to pass. The little boy's parents ran toward them with tears in their eyes. "Our son," they cried. "We thought we had lost him forever." They thanked Elias again and again, but Elias quietly replied, "Don't thank me. Thank God. He led me to your son." That night, as Elias sat outside his home, exhausted from the day's events, he looked up at the stars. For the first time in many weeks, peace filled his heart. He realized that even while he had been asking God, "Where are you?" God had been using him to answer someone else's prayer. Little did Elias. Several days passed after the great storm. Life in the village slowly returned to normal, but Elias noticed that his mother was growing weaker. Every morning she tried to smile, yet her strength faded with each passing day. One evening, Elias sat beside her bed and gently held her hand. "My son," she whispered, "don't let fear steal your faith. God has carried our family before, and He will carry us again." Elias lowered his head. "Mother, I believe in God, but sometimes I don't understand His ways." She smiled softly. "We don't always understand His plans, but we can always trust His heart." Those words stayed with Elias. The next morning, he traveled to the nearby town, hoping to earn enough money for medicine. He worked all day helping merchants unload heavy carts, but the pay was small. As he began walking home, he reached into his pocket. His heart sank. The few coins he had earned were gone. He searched the road again and again, but they had disappeared. Exhausted, he sat beside an old tree. "Lord," he prayed with tears in his eyes, "I wasn't asking for riches. I only wanted enough to help my mother. Why does every step forward feel followed by 2 steps back?" For a long moment, there was only silence. Then an elderly farmer approached. "You look troubled, son," the man said kindly. Elias told him everything. The farmer listened carefully before saying, "When I was young, I also believed that every closed door meant God had forgotten me. Years later, I discovered that those closed doors had protected me from paths that would have destroyed my life." The old man opened his Bible and read aloud, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding." Elias recognized the verse, but that day it touched his heart in a new way. He thanked the farmer and continued walking home. When he arrived, he expected more bad news. Instead, he found several neighbors gathered outside his house. For a moment, fear filled his heart. But then one of the villagers stepped forward. "Elias," he said, "when our son was lost in the storm, you risked your own life to save him. We could never repay that kindness, but we have all brought something for your family." One family brought food, another brought warm blankets, someone else brought medicine, others gave a little money. None of them were wealthy, yet together, they had provided everything Elias's family needed. Tears filled his eyes. He realized that God had answered his prayer, not in the way he expected, but through the love and generosity of others. That night, Elias stood outside beneath the stars and whispered, "Lord, forgive me for thinking you were silent. You were working all along, even when I couldn't see it." But as peace settled over his heart, a rider on horseback appeared at the edge of the village. His horse was covered in dust. His face showed urgency. He carried a message that would change Elias's life forever. The horse stopped in the center of the village. The rider climbed down quickly and looked around until his eyes met Elias. "Are you the shepherd named Elias?" he asked. "Yes," Elias replied. The man took a deep breath. "I have traveled for 2 days to find you." The villagers gathered around, wondering why a stranger had come so far to meet a simple shepherd. The messenger continued, "There is a village beyond the eastern mountains. A terrible sickness has spread through the area. Many families have lost hope. One of the elders heard about the shepherd who risked his life to save a child during the storm. They asked me to bring you there." Elias was surprised. "But I'm not a doctor," he said. "I have no special knowledge." The messenger smiled. "They are not asking for a doctor. They are asking for a man of faith." Those words echoed in Elias's heart. That evening, he prayed longer than ever before. "Lord, if this invitation comes from you, show me the way. I am only a shepherd. I don't know how I can help anyone." As he prayed, he remembered the words from Isaiah, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Yes, I will help you." Peace slowly filled his heart. The next morning, Elias kissed his mother's forehead before leaving. She smiled gently. "My son," she said, "God has never called perfect people. He calls willing hearts. Go wherever he leads you." With tears in his eyes, Elias embraced her. Carrying only his staff, a small bag of food, and his well-worn Bible, he began the long journey across the mountains. The road was steep and lonely. Sometimes he questioned whether he had made the right decision. Whenever fear entered his mind, he opened his Bible and read God's promises aloud. Each verse gave him new strength. After several days of walking, Elias reached a narrow mountain pass. Suddenly, he heard cries for help. A wooden cart had overturned on the rocky path. An elderly couple was trapped beneath it. Without thinking about the danger, Elias rushed forward, using all his strength. He lifted one side of the heavy cart while another traveler pulled the couple to safety. The old man looked at Elias with tears in his eyes. "You could have walked away," he said. Elias smiled. "Jesus never walked away from those who needed help. I want to follow his example." The couple thanked him and continued their journey. As Elias watched them disappear down the road, he quietly realized something. Every delay on his journey had become another opportunity to serve someone. Perhaps God's purpose was never only about reaching a destination. Perhaps it was also about becoming the person God wanted him to be along the way. As the sun set behind the mountains, Elias saw the distant lights of the village he had been searching for, but he had no idea. The greatest challenge of his life was waiting just beyond those lights. As dawn broke over the mountains, Elias walked through the gates of the village. The streets were unusually quiet. Many homes had their doors closed. The marketplace, once filled with laughter and conversation, stood nearly empty. Faces that looked through the windows carried fear instead of hope. An elderly village leader stepped forward to welcome him. "You must be Elias," he said gently. "Thank you for coming. We have been praying that God would send someone to encourage us." Elias looked around with sadness. "I wish I had the wisdom to solve all your problems," he replied. The elder smiled. "Sometimes people do not need someone who has all the answers. They simply need someone who reminds them that God has not forgotten them." The elder led Elias through the village. He met families who had lost loved ones. He prayed with mothers who wept for their children. He comforted elderly people who believed they had been abandoned. Elias did not have great speeches. He simply listened, prayed, and reminded each person of God's promises. That afternoon, and while walking near a small chapel, Elias noticed a little girl sitting alone on the steps. She could not have been more than 9 years old. She held an old Bible tightly against her chest. "What is your name?" Elias asked. "My name is Hannah," she answered quietly. "Where are your parents?" The little girl lowered her eyes. "They are with the Lord now." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Hannah looked up with a gentle smile. "My parents always told me that even when life hurts, Jesus is still holding our hands." Those simple words touched Elias deeply. He realized that this child, despite losing everything, still trusted God more than many adults. That evening, the villagers gathered in the small chapel. Candles filled the room with a warm light. Elias opened his Bible and read from Romans 8:28. "And we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose." He spoke softly. We may not understand every trial we face. We may cry, we may struggle, and we may feel weak, but our suffering is never greater than God's love. Even in the darkest valley, He walks beside us. Many people began to cry, not because all their problems had disappeared, but because hope had returned to their hearts. When the gathering ended, Hannah walked over to Elias and handed him a folded piece of paper. "My father wrote this before he died," she whispered. "He told me to give it to the person God would send." With trembling hands, Elias unfolded the note. As he began to read, his eyes widened. The message contained a secret that would change everything he believed about his journey, and it would reveal why God had led him to this village from the very beginning. The chapel had grown quiet. One by one, the villagers returned to their homes, carrying a little more hope than they had when they arrived. Only Elias remained. The candles flickered gently as he unfolded the letter Hannah had given him. The paper was old and worn. The handwriting was careful but faded with time. It read, "If you are reading this, then God has answered my prayer. I do not know your name, but I know the Lord has sent you. Never believe that your life is too small for God to use. The greatest miracles often begin with ordinary people who simply obey Him." Elias paused. The words felt as though they had been written directly for him. He continued reading. "Many years ago, a stranger saved my life when I was lost in the mountains. He asked for nothing in return. Before leaving, he told me, 'One day, when God gives you the opportunity, become the answer to someone else's prayer.' I have tried to live by those words." Tears filled Elias's eyes. He remembered the old traveler who had visited his own village only weeks earlier. He remembered the simple meal he had shared with him. Could one act of kindness really travel from one life to another, touching people across many years? The letter ended with these words: "If fear tells you that you cannot make a difference, do not listen. Listen to God instead. One heart changed by His love can change a family. One family can change a village. One village can become a light to many others." Elias carefully folded the letter and placed it inside his Bible. The next morning, he gathered the villagers outside the chapel. He looked into their tired faces and spoke with quiet confidence. "My friends, I cannot promise that every problem will disappear today. But I can promise this: God has not abandoned you. If we stand together, pray together, and help one another, hope will return." He encouraged those who had food to share with those who had none. The strongest men repaired damaged homes. The women prepared meals for the sick. Children carried water to elderly neighbors. Day after day, something beautiful began to happen. The village slowly came back to life. People who had once locked their doors now opened them to help others. Fear was being replaced by faith. Despair was being replaced by love. One evening, as Elias stood outside the chapel watching the sunset, Hannah walked beside him. "Do you think God still performs miracles?" she asked. Elias smiled. "Yes." She looked around the village. "But I haven't seen a miracle." Elias pointed toward the people laughing together as they rebuilt a neighbor's house. "Look carefully, Hannah," he said softly. "When broken hearts forgive, when strangers become family, when people choose love instead of fear, those are miracles too." Hannah smiled. For the first time since losing her parents, hope filled her heart. A week passed, and the village was changing in remarkable ways. Children were laughing again in the streets. The sick were slowly recovering. Neighbors who had once lived in silence now worked side by side, rebuilding broken homes and encouraging one another. Every evening, the chapel was filled with songs of praise and prayers of thanksgiving. Elias thanked God for every small victory. But one quiet morning, the sound of horses echoed through the valley. A group of armed riders entered the village. At their head was a wealthy landowner named Marcus, a man known for his pride and love of power. He looked around the village with cold eyes. "So," Marcus said, "this is the place everyone has been talking about." The villagers stood silently. Marcus unrolled a large document. "This land now belongs to me," he announced. "Those who cannot pay my price must leave within 7 days." Fear spread through the crowd. Many families had no money. Some had nowhere else to go. One elderly woman began to cry. "We have lived here all our lives. she whispered. Marcus showed no compassion. That is not my concern. He turned his horse and rode away, leaving the village in silence. That evening, everyone gathered inside the chapel. Some were angry, some were afraid. Others had already lost hope. One man stood up and said, "We should fight." Another replied, "No, we should run before it is too late." The room filled with arguments. Finally, Elias stood. He raised his hand, and the room became quiet. "My friends," he said gently, "fear often speaks louder than faith, but we must not make decisions driven by panic." He opened his Bible and read, "God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble." Psalm 46:1. Then he continued, "We will pray first. We will seek wisdom first, and we will trust that the God who has carried us this far will not abandon us now." The villagers knelt together. For the first time in many years, the entire village prayed with one heart and one voice. The next morning, Elias walked alone to a nearby hill. He looked across the valley and cried out, "Lord, I don't know what to do. These people are depending on me, but I am only a shepherd. Please show me the path." As he finished praying, he noticed an old man climbing the hill with the help of a wooden staff. When the man came closer, Elias gasped. It was the same traveler he had welcomed into his home many weeks before. The old man smiled warmly. "I told you once," he said. "God often begins his greatest miracles through the smallest acts of kindness. Today, it is time for you to see why." Elias could hardly believe his eyes. "The traveler," he whispered. "I've been wondering who you really are." The old man smiled and sat on a large stone overlooking the valley. "For many years," he said, "I have traveled from village to village, encouraging people who have lost hope. I own no great house, and I carry no treasures. But I have learned that faith is the greatest treasure a person can possess." Elias sat beside him. "I feel too weak for this responsibility," he admitted. "The villagers expect me to lead them, but I don't know what to do." The traveler gently opened his worn Bible. "My son, do you remember when Moses stood before the Red Sea? Do you remember when David faced Goliath? Or when the disciples feared the storm on the sea?" Elias nodded. "They all believed they were too weak," the traveler continued. "Yet God showed his strength through ordinary people who trusted him." He pointed toward the village below. "That God did not choose you because you are the strongest shepherd. He chose you because your heart is willing." Those words gave Elias new courage. The traveler then reached into his old leather bag and removed a folded document. "I have something that belongs to this village." Elias carefully opened it. It was an old property record, signed many years earlier. The traveler explained, "Long ago, the founder of this village entrusted these lands to the families who lived here. The land was never meant to be taken by greed. Marcus has no rightful claim." Elias looked up in amazement. "Then the villagers don't have to leave?" "No," the traveler replied, "but the truth must be presented with wisdom, honesty, and courage." The next morning, Elias gathered the elders and showed them the document. Hope spread through the room. Instead of preparing for violence, they decided to seek justice peacefully. For 3 days they prayed together. They asked God to soften hearts and reveal the truth. On the 4th day, Marcus returned with his riders. He expected frightened people. Instead, he found a united village standing together. Elias stepped forward calmly. "We have no desire to fight," he said. "Now, but we also cannot surrender what God has entrusted to these families." He handed Marcus the ancient document. Marcus read it carefully. The confidence on his face slowly disappeared. For the first time, he realized that his claim rested on false information. The villagers watched in complete silence. Would Marcus accept the truth, or would his pride push him toward an even greater injustice? Only God knew what would happen next. Marcus stood silently, holding the old document in his hands. The entire village waited. No one spoke. No one moved. Even the wind seemed to grow still. Marcus read every line again. The document clearly showed that the land belonged to the families, who had lived there for generations. For a moment, his face hardened with pride. He looked at his riders, then at the villagers standing together. He knew that if he admitted the truth, he would lose his reputation. But if he ignored it, he would be choosing injustice. The battle was no longer about land. It was a battle inside his own heart. Elias stepped forward. He did not shout. He did not threaten. Instead, he spoke gently. Marcus, every person makes mistakes. What matters is whether we are willing to do what is right. Marcus looked at him with surprise. After everything I have done, he asked, why are you speaking to me with kindness? Elias answered, because Christ showed mercy to me when I did not deserve it. How can I refuse mercy to someone else? Those words pierced Marcus's heart. He remembered his own childhood. Years earlier, after his father had died, his family had fallen into poverty. A kind Christian farmer had shared food with them and told him, never let wealth become more important than people. Over the years, Marcus had forgotten those words. He had chased power, money, and control. Now, standing before the villagers, he realized how far he had wandered from the values he once believed. Slowly, Marcus lowered his head. I have been wrong, he said quietly. I allowed pride to blind me. The villagers stared in amazement. No one had expected those words. Marcus rolled up the document and handed it back to Elias. The land belongs to you, he said. I will not take it. Then he turned toward the people. I cannot erase the fear I caused. But if you are willing, I want to make things right. An elderly woman stepped forward. She was the same woman who had cried when she feared losing her home. With tears in her eyes, she said, we forgive you. One by one, the villagers nodded. There was no cheering. There was no celebration of victory over an enemy. Instead, there was something even greater. There was forgiveness. Elias looked toward the sky and quietly thanked God. He understood that the greatest miracle was not simply saving the village. It was seeing a proud heart transformed by grace. But the story was not over. That evening, as the sun disappeared behind the mountains, the old traveler smiled at Elias and said, my work here is finished. Now it is time for yours to truly begin. The next morning, the village awoke to a peaceful sunrise. For the first time in many months, there was no fear in the streets. Children laughed as they played. Families worked together in the fields, and songs of gratitude could be heard from the small chapel. Elias walked through the village with a thankful heart. As he reached the hill where he had often prayed, he looked for the old traveler, but the traveler was nowhere to be found. Only his worn wooden staff rested against a large stone. Beside it lay a small note. With quiet hands, Elias unfolded the paper. It read, my dear son, if you have found this letter, then my journey has ended, and yours continues. Never let people praise you more than they praise God. Remember, you were never called to be famous. You were called to be faithful. Elias continued reading. There will be days when your faith is tested. There will be moments when your prayers seem unanswered. In those moments, remember this. God is always working, even when you cannot see his hand. Tears filled Elias's eyes. The old traveler had disappeared as quietly as he had arrived. Some believed he had simply continued his journey to another village. Others believed God had sent him at exactly the right time. Elias folded the letter and placed it inside his Bible beside Hannah's father's message. From that day forward, he never stopped serving others. Years passed. His mother regained her strength. Hannah grew into a wise and compassionate young woman who taught children to read the scriptures. Marcus kept his promise. Instead of ruling through fear, he used his wealth to build wells, repair roads, and help struggling families. The village became known throughout the region, not because it was rich, but because it was filled with people who loved one another. Travelers often asked, what changed this place? The villagers always gave the same answer. God changed our hearts. When Elias became an old man, young shepherds would gather around him and ask, what is the greatest lesson you have learned? He would smile and answer, the greatest miracle is not that God removes every storm from our lives. The greatest miracle is that he walks with us through every storm and changes our hearts along the way. Then he would open his Bible and read these words. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Deuteronomy 31:6. As the sun set over the peaceful hills, Elias looked across the valley one last time. The fields were green. The children were safe. The chapel bells rang with joy. He quietly whispered, "Thank you, Lord, for never giving up on me." And that is the promise God offers to every believer today. No matter how dark the night may seem, no matter how heavy the burden may feel, God is still faithful. He is still leading. He is still working. And He will never give up on those who place their trust in Him. Thank you for watching. If this story encouraged your heart, remember this: no matter how difficult life becomes, God is always with those who trust Him. His love never fails. His promises remain true, and His grace is enough for every season. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe for more Christian inspirational stories rooted in biblical values. May the Lord bless you, protect you, and fill your heart with His peace. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make His face shine on you and be gracious to you. Numbers 6:24-25. Thank you, and may God bless you. See you in the next story.